The morning begins with a hum, a low, constant vibration of screens, tickers, and headlines. Numbers flash in red and green, an endless stream of data that promises insight, but delivers anxiety. Our protagonist, Ayan, sits at his desk, coffee cooling beside a half-open notebook filled with scribbles of hot tips and must-buy stocks. The market feels alive, electric, even dangerous, and every new alert demands attention. He scrolls through news feeds, trades based on whispers, and checks his portfolio every 5 minutes, chasing the fleeting surge of opportunity. Each decision is urgent, each trade impulsive, yet nothing seems to bring satisfaction. Only the relentless pressure to act faster, to anticipate the next wave. Ayan's mentor, an older investor named Mr. Desai, notices the strain during their first meeting. The office smells faintly of paper and polished wood, and sunlight filters through the blinds, casting long stripes across the desk. Mr. Desai doesn't lecture. He waits, letting Ayan's frustration fill the room. Finally, he speaks. "You're listening to the market, yes, but are you hearing it?" His voice is calm, deliberate, almost imperceptibly challenging. Most of what you're absorbing is noise. Headlines, hot tips, the fear of missing out. They distract you from the underlying truth. Value doesn't scream. It waits. The lesson is subtle, yet it strikes Ayan more than any portfolio loss could. He thinks about the last week, how he bought on hype, sold in panic, and still felt the gnawing anxiety of having missed a crucial move. His profits are inconsistent. His mistakes are emotional. He's trapped in a cycle, a hamster wheel of reaction, never reflection. That evening, the market delivers its most brutal lesson yet. A stock he purchased on a rumor plunges 12% in a single hour. The screen turns crimson. Heart racing, Ayan experiences the visceral pang of loss. The physical tightening of the chest, the hollow stomach, the restless tapping of fingers on a desk. He calls a friend for advice, only to find conflicting opinions, each one louder than the last. Panic threatens to override reason. It's in this crucible of emotion that Mr. Desai's words echo. Noise tempts action, but wisdom tempers it. You cannot control the market, but you can control your mind. Ayan closes his laptop, takes a deep breath, and steps outside. The city is wet from a morning drizzle. The damp air smells of asphalt and fresh rain. In the silence between raindrops, clarity begins to seep in. He realizes that the market's chaos is not a call to panic. It is an invitation to observe, to learn, to understand. For the first time, Ayan attempts restraint. He records his emotional responses in his notebook: fear, frustration, impulsiveness. The exercise is tedious, uncomfortable, but illuminating. Each emotion mapped becomes a signal, a guidepost for future decisions. He starts to perceive that intelligence alone cannot prevent loss. Temperament, calm, disciplined, patient temperament, is the invisible edge that separates fleeting traders from enduring investors. As night falls, the hum of screens is replaced by the quiet of thought. Ayan sits in his apartment, the city lights reflecting off the window, and feels the subtle shift within himself. A seed of transformation has been planted. The market may roar, but he can learn to listen differently. The chaos outside begins to mirror a new calm inside, a foundational lesson in clarity over impulse. The next morning, Ayan returns to his desk, not with the same urgency, but with a question. How does one distinguish signal from noise? Cinematic transition. And in that quiet curiosity, the journey toward understanding one's true circle of competence begins, a step into deliberate, value-focused action. The next morning, Ayan approaches the market with a different posture. The screens are still alive, the tickers still flashing, but he notices something he had never seen before: the patterns in the chaos. Each red plunge or green surge is now filtered through a lens of calm observation rather than impulsive reaction. He opens his notebook, this time with a sense of purpose, not panic. Mr. Desai's words linger. The market rewards those who can endure its storms without losing themselves. Ayan begins cataloging his trades, not just the profits and losses, but the reasons behind them, the emotional triggers that prompted each decision. He identifies moments where fear dictated action and where greed tempted overreach. This exercise is painstaking, almost meditative, forcing him to confront his own impulses. He realizes that most of his losses weren't due to market mechanics, but to his inability to resist the siren song of noise, the constant barrage of opinion, speculation, and urgency. In a boardroom discussion later that week, Ayan observes seasoned investors debating a hot tech stock. Everyone talks over each other, predictions flying, voices rising. The temptation to join in is strong, to chase the energy, to act. But instead, he sits back and listens. He notices which arguments are rooted in data and which are driven by fear or hype. A clarity emerges. Insight is quiet. It doesn't scream. Mr. Desai schedules a one-on-one the following evening. The office is dim, a single desk lamp illuminating piles of annual reports. Patience, he says, handing Ayan a simple ledger, isn't passive. It's active. It's seeing the world clearly, even when everyone else is shouting. The lesson crystallizes as Ayan pores over the ledger. True investing requires the courage to wait, to act only when the facts and intrinsic value align. Noise, he now understands, is the enemy of rational thought. Emotionally, the shift is subtle, but profound. The anxiety that once coiled in his chest loosens. Decisions no longer feel like life or death battles. Each choice is approached with careful calculation. Financially, he resists a few impulsive trades, watching them with curiosity rather than regret as they fluctuate. The loss of potential quick gains no longer feels like failure. It feels like discipline. By the chapter's end, Ayan is not yet a master. He will face losses, moments of doubt, and tests of temperament. But he has crossed the first threshold, understanding that clarity emerges not from constant action, but from reflection and restraint. His emotional resilience is budding. His mind is learning to see the market as a system to observe, not a beast to conquer. Cinematic transition. With the first whispers of discipline and reflection taking root, Ayan now steps into the next phase, discovering the boundaries of his knowledge, the circle where competence becomes power, and where understanding truly compounds over time. Ayan's journey continues in the quieter corners of his office, where screens hum but do not command. The lesson of noise has taken hold, but a new question emerges. What do I truly understand? Mr. Desai guides him toward the concept of a circle of competence, the specific industries, businesses, and strategies where one's knowledge is deep, reliable, and actionable. Knowing your limits is not weakness, Mr. Desai explains. It is the foundation of strength. Step outside your circle, and risk multiplies. Stay within it, and clarity compounds. To illustrate, Mr. Desai presents a scenario. Two investors in the same market. One chases every trend, every sector, every hot tip. The other focuses only on a handful of businesses she understands intimately. The first experiences constant volatility, emotional swings, and the illusion of progress. The second moves deliberately, her decisions anchored in understanding rather than speculation. The lesson lands. Breadth without depth is noise. Depth within a circle of competence is power. Ayan begins mapping his own circle. He reviews past trades, analyzing where his knowledge was sufficient and where he relied on guesswork. Technology stocks had seemed exciting, but his understanding of the industry was superficial. Consumer goods, however, were familiar. He understood the supply chains, the brands, and the market dynamics. Each small success in his domain reinforces the principle: knowledge compounds, just like capital. Emotionally, Ayan feels relief. He realizes that the pressure to chase every opportunity is self-imposed. The market does not demand omniscience. It rewards rational, informed action. He starts experimenting with deliberate investments, small, cautious positions in businesses he understands well. The immediate outcomes are modest. No dramatic gains, no sudden headlines. But they teach patience, pattern recognition, and confidence in his own judgment. During a rainy afternoon, Ayan walks through the city streets observing small businesses. He notices patterns in pricing, customer behavior, and operational efficiency. Insights emerge effortlessly because they are familiar within his circle of competence. Mr. Desai's earlier words echo. Complexity outside your circle is dangerous. Simplicity within it is power. Ayan begins internalizing this discipline, understanding that trying to master everything is an exercise in futility, while focusing on what he knows allows incremental, reliable growth. Evenings are now spent analyzing annual reports, management commentary, and competitive positioning. Each analysis is a micro-lesson in value, intrinsic worth, and the rhythm of businesses over time. He learns to distinguish temporary market panic from fundamental change, to assess companies on their merits rather than hype. Slowly, he experiences the quiet satisfaction of informed decision-making, a stark contrast to the frenetic chaos of his earlier trading days. Financially, the results are modest but instructive. Gains are steady, losses are smaller, often avoidable. Emotionally, Ayan feels a growing sense of security and self-trust. For the first time, he is not reacting to the market. He is observing, analyzing, and acting deliberately. The internal growth mirrors the external. Confidence replaces anxiety, clarity replaces confusion, and small successes compound into experience. Cinematic transition. With a defined circle of competence, Ayan now faces the ultimate test of rationality and patience, navigating the market's inevitable downturns while safeguarding his investments with a margin of safety. Weeks pass, and Ayan's approach solidifies. The frenetic energy of reacting to every market blip has faded, replaced by steady analysis. He focuses exclusively on sectors he understands: consumer staples, select manufacturing, and a few financial services firms. Each potential investment is filtered through questions he now asks instinctively. Do I understand this business? Can I evaluate its intrinsic value? Does this align with my knowledge and judgment? If the answer is no, he walks away. This discipline alone prevents impulsive losses that would have once shaken him to the core. Mr. Desai reinforces the lesson with a tangible exercise. He hands Ayan a list of unfamiliar companies, biotech startups, volatile tech ventures, and trendy energy plays, and challenges him to assess their worth. Within minutes, Ayan recognizes his own limitations. He could read the numbers, but the qualitative factors, management reliability, market dynamics, competitive moat, eluded him. The realization stings. Ignorance masquerades as opportunity until discipline reveals the truth. Yet this recognition is empowering. By acknowledging what he does not know, he can focus his energy where it truly matters. Ayan begins documenting insights in a structured ledger, noting patterns in consumer behavior, management strategies, and cash flow cycles. Each note strengthens his understanding of the industries he can confidently navigate. He notices subtle signals. A company's pricing strategy foreshadows growth, operational efficiency indicates resilience, and leadership consistency predicts long-term stability. Over time, these small disciplined observations coalesce into a robust framework for rational decision-making. Emotionally, he feels a quiet transformation. The anxiety of uncertainty is replaced by the satisfaction of mastery over a domain. Peer pressure, market hype, and fear of missing out lose their grip. He begins to see investing as a game of patience and knowledge, not speed and speculation. The compounding effect is no longer just financial. His confidence, judgment, and rationality all grow in parallel. By the end of this chapter, Ayan has crossed another threshold. He no longer chases every opportunity. Instead, he respects the boundaries of his knowledge, understanding that mastery is deeper than breadth. Each deliberate action reinforces both his portfolio and his temperament. In the disciplined application of his circle of competence, Ayan glimpses the quiet power of value investing. Clarity, patience, and rational action converge to produce compounding not only of wealth, but of understanding. Cinematic transition. With competence established, the next crucible awaits. A market downturn that will test Ayan's discipline, patience, and ability to apply a margin of safety. A lesson in resilience that separates fear-driven investors from those who endure. The winter market opens cold, sharp, and unforgiving. Headlines scream of recession, plunging stocks, and the looming threat of volatility. Ayan watches as his peers react in panic, selling positions, chasing fleeting trends, and abandoning strategies they had once championed. The temperature in his office seems to drop with each red candle on the screen, the hum of monitors punctuated by the anxious tapping of keyboards. For a moment, old fears resurface, the ones he thought he had conquered, the urge to act, to escape potential loss, to join the frenzy. Mr. Desai observes quietly. This, he says, gesturing toward the chaos on the screens, is where most investors fail, not because they lack knowledge, but because they lack preparation. Fear turns strategy into panic, and panic destroys capital. He slides across a sheet of paper, a simple framework that will guide Ayan through the turbulence, the principle of a margin of safety. Investing without it, Mr. Desai continues, is like sailing without a life jacket in a storm. You might survive, but the odds are against you. Ayan studies the numbers. The companies within his circle of competence are dropping in price, sometimes dramatically, but the underlying fundamentals remain strong. Revenue is steady, cash flow positive, and management maintains prudent policies. Yet the emotional pull of fear tugs at him. What if the market continues to fall? He remembers his past impulsive trades, the losses that haunted his chest and disrupted his nights. The margin of safety is not merely a financial buffer, it is a psychological anchor, a way to align rational assessment with emotional resilience. Mr. Desai leads him through a simple calculation. Estimate intrinsic value, then compare it with current market price. A buffer of 20 to 40% below intrinsic value, he explains, allows for error, volatility, and uncertainty. The market is rarely wrong about price in the short term, he says. It is often wrong about value over the long term. Your job is to protect against mistakes, not predict the market. Ayan internalizes this. He realizes that speculation is seductive but dangerous. Prudence is quiet, but enduring. Emotionally, tension and fear are present, but tempered. Ayan no longer reacts reflexively to market drops. Instead, he observes, calculates, and waits. The hum of monitors becomes a background rhythm to measured thought, rather than a siren of panic. He places his first margin of safety-driven investment, selecting a company with a strong moat whose stock has been unfairly punished. The purchase is deliberate, cautious, and rational, a stark contrast to the impulsive trades of his past. That night, as rain taps against the office window, Ayan reflects. Fear, once an enemy, is now a teacher. The margin of safety has transformed the experience of loss into a lesson in preparation and humility. He sees the paradox. Panic outside becomes clarity inside. Discipline emerges from restraint, and patience is tested but not broken. Cinematic transition. With the first test of resilience behind him, Ayan now stands at the threshold where patience and compounding converge. a stage where the quiet power of disciplined, value-based investing begins to reveal its full potential. The following weeks are tense. The market continues its erratic descent, and whispers of doom pervade every newsfeed and trading floor. Friends and colleagues call frantically, seeking advice, sharing rumors, and describing losses in vivid detail. In the past, Ion might have joined the chorus of panic, selling prematurely, chasing safety in cash, or pursuing speculative rebounds. Now he pauses. He revisits his ledger, examines intrinsic values, and compares them with current prices. The margin of safety provides a buffer not only for capital, but for emotion. Each calculated decision reinforces the lesson. Rational preparation outweighs reactive fear. Ion's positions fluctuate, sometimes sharply, yet the companies he has chosen remain fundamentally sound. He observes peers abandoning investments in haste, only to chase higher-risk opportunities with less understanding. The contrast is stark. Fear-driven actions lead to volatility and regret, while rational, margin-of-safety-driven decisions endure. This is not about predicting the bottom or timing the rebound. It is about ensuring that each position has a cushion to withstand uncertainty. The concept of intrinsic value becomes tangible, guiding him past the siren calls of market hysteria. Emotionally, the transformation deepens. Ion notices a subtle calm during volatility that previously would have triggered panic. The physical tension in his chest eases. The racing pulse that once accompanied every red candle is now replaced with measured breathing and observation. He begins to appreciate that fear itself is not the enemy. Untempered fear is. By structuring decisions around a margin of safety, he converts anxiety into actionable insight, allowing rational analysis to govern emotional response. Mr. Desai reinforces this perspective during their weekly review. Volatility tests temperament more than skill, he notes, highlighting trades that succeeded not because of clever timing, but because they were protected by a sufficient margin. Ion sees a pattern emerge. The market punishes overconfidence and rewards disciplined caution. True resilience, he realizes, does not come from predicting the unpredictable, but from preparing for it. By the chapter's conclusion, Ion has internalized a critical principle. Fear is no longer paralyzing. It is a compass, guiding measured, patient action. The market's turbulence, rather than dictating panic, has become a testing ground for discipline. Through careful calculation, adherence to intrinsic value, and the protective buffer of a margin of safety, he has built not just a portfolio, but a temperament capable of withstanding uncertainty. Cinematic transition. With discipline and resilience anchored, Ion is ready to witness the quiet magic of compounding, the long-term reward for patience, prudence, and rational action, where small, steady gains accumulate into transformative growth. Spring arrives, softening the city's edges with warm sunlight and the faint scent of blooming flowers. In Ion's office, the screens continue to flicker with the market's constant chatter, but he no longer reacts to every blip. With his circle of competence defined and a margin of safety in place, he begins to notice a subtle, almost imperceptible transformation. The slow accumulation of wealth, the compounding of disciplined decisions over time. It is not dramatic. There are no explosive gains, no headlines screaming success. Yet in quiet, measured increments, his portfolio begins to reflect the careful thought he has invested. Mr. Desai explains, compounding is not magic. It is patience made tangible. Each deliberate choice, each position bought with knowledge and discipline, accumulates value over time. Wealth grows quietly. The market is not the hero. Your consistency is. Ion reflects on this principle as he reviews quarterly reports. He sees revenue growth, dividends reinvested, and minor fluctuations that, in isolation, seem inconsequential. But collectively, over months and years, these small increments become meaningful. Emotionally, the the lesson resonates deeply. Ayan recalls the early days of frantic trading, the sleepless nights, the anxiety-driven decisions. He recognizes now that true returns are less about clever timing or predicting market swings, and more about steady, rational action compounded over time. There is a satisfaction in delayed gratification, a quiet pride in having resisted the siren call of hype and speculation. He visits a small manufacturing company he has invested in, one whose fundamentals he understands intimately. Observing the production line, the workflow, and the attentive management, he feels a new sense of ownership. Each investment is no longer a number on a screen. It is a part of a real business, operating, creating value, and resilient to temporary market panic. He begins thinking like an owner, not a trader, understanding that his gains will mirror the growth of the business itself over the long term. Ayan's notebook is now filled with patterns, insights, and reflections. He tracks revenue trends, management decisions, and operational efficiency, reinforcing the alignment between rational analysis and patient execution. Each small victory, a dividend reinvested, a well-timed purchase within his circle of competence, a disciplined hold during a market dip, compounds alongside his growing knowledge and emotional mastery. The city outside moves quickly, oblivious to individual actions. Ayan, however, feels a quiet rhythm within himself, the slow, almost imperceptible accumulation of wealth, confidence, and understanding. He begins to see that patience, clarity, and disciplined action are the true multipliers, far more potent than speculation or impulsive trading. Financially, the portfolio grows in a measured, predictable fashion. Emotionally, Ayan experiences a profound sense of satisfaction and calm. The journey has taught him that wealth is a reflection not only of capital, but of temperament, understanding, and the disciplined application of principles over time. Cinematic transition. With compounding demonstrating the quiet power of patience, Ayan now encounters the ultimate test of restraint and self-discipline, the law of patience, where temptation and volatility challenge every principle he has cultivated. Weeks turn into months, and the effects of disciplined compounding begin to crystallize. Ayan's portfolio, built carefully within his circle of competence and safeguarded with margins of safety, shows steady growth. It is neither flashy nor immediate, but each position reinforces the principle. Patient, informed decisions multiply quietly over time. He monitors the companies, not their stock prices, observing how revenue growth, prudent management, and market positioning slowly translate into increasing intrinsic value. The lesson is clear. Wealth is the byproduct of understanding, restraint, and consistent action, not the pursuit of short-term excitement. Mr. Desai emphasizes another critical dimension. Compounding is psychological as much as financial. It rewards temperament as much as strategy. Your mind must remain patient and rational while time works its magic. Ayan internalizes this truth. The market's noise has become background music. His focus is on fundamentals, on the enduring health of the businesses he owns, and on the disciplined application of his strategy. Each day is a practice in observation, patience, and deliberate reflection. Emotionally, Ayan feels a profound transformation. The restless energy and anxiety of his early trading days have given way to calm assurance. He has developed confidence in his own judgment and in the slow, steady process that produces enduring results. Where he once chased headlines, he now studies cash flow statements and competitive advantages, finding satisfaction in knowledge and foresight rather than in the ephemeral thrill of price swings. This phase also reinforces the importance of compounding personal mastery. Knowledge, discipline, and emotional intelligence are themselves compounding forces. Each disciplined decision strengthens the next, creating a virtuous cycle of insight and rational action. Ayan begins mentoring a junior investor, teaching the same principles he has internalized: patience, understanding, and the quiet accumulation of value over time. In guiding another, he sees the universality of the lessons. The principles are timeless, not tied to specific markets or momentary trends. By the chapter's end, the power of compounding is no longer abstract. Ayan has witnessed it in his portfolio, in his confidence, and in the clarity of his thought process. The slow, incremental accumulation of value has reinforced the truth that investing is a marathon, not a sprint. Patience and discipline are not just virtues. They are essential tools that transform fear and uncertainty into opportunity and growth. Cinematic transition. With the tangible rewards of patience and compounding now evident, Ayan faces the next test: resisting temptation, maintaining discipline, and embracing the ultimate principle of the patient investor, the law of patience. Summer arrives with sweltering heat and restless energy, both in the city streets and in the market. Stocks fluctuate wildly, rumors swirl, and even seasoned investors debate heatedly over what tomorrow might bring. Ayan, now more disciplined, is confronted with a new challenge. The market tempts him with opportunities that seem too good to ignore. Headlines scream of once-in-a-lifetime gains, Pierce brag of quick wins, and the media amplifies every small trend into a crisis or a breakthrough. The temptation to act impulsively presses hard, testing the very foundations of his discipline. Mr. Desai calls Ayan to his office, the ceiling fan cutting through the humid air as he gestures to a chart of historical market corrections. Patience is the ultimate weapon, he says calmly. Opportunities are not always obvious, and action without alignment to intrinsic value is rarely rewarded. The law of patience states that those who wait, truly wait, are the ones who prevail. He points to the chart. Every downturn eventually stabilized, but only investors who maintained composure and clarity emerged stronger. Ayan practices this principle firsthand. He observes a promising stock dip significantly, one that excites both him and his peers. His instinct urges purchase, to seize what looks like a bargain, but he forces himself to pause. He reviews the fundamentals, recalculates intrinsic value, and waits. Hours turn into days. The market fluctuates, headlines change, peer pressure mounts, yet he holds firm. This restraint is uncomfortable. The mind resists inaction, even when logic says, wait. Emotionally, the struggle is intense. Anxiety whispers, what if you miss the bottom? What if everyone else is right? Ayan notes each feeling in his journal, recognizing the tension between impulse and discipline. The law of patience is not passive. It is active observation, deliberate calculation, and measured timing. Each moment of restraint strengthens his emotional intelligence, reshaping fear and desire into allies rather than adversaries. Financially, Ayan sees the immediate temptation evaporate as short-term gains elsewhere prove fleeting, often followed by sharp reversals. Those who acted on hype frequently exit in regret. Those who acted prematurely experience losses. By contrast, his patience preserves capital and positions him to act when genuine opportunity, aligned with intrinsic value, presents itself. The lesson is clear. Long-term success is the reward for those who resist noise, who align action with understanding, and who embrace the timing dictated by rational assessment rather than impulse. Cinematic transition. As patience begins to harden into habit, Ayan moves closer to embodying the quiet, disciplined investor. The next step: adopting the owner's mindset, where each investment is a piece of a real, enduring business, not a fleeting market bet. Days stretch into weeks, and Ayan's discipline is tested repeatedly. Market volatility remains high, and opportunities seem to appear everywhere, some real, some illusory. Friends and colleagues push him to act. You'll miss the move if you don't buy now. Headlines scream about emerging sectors, and analysts publish conflicting forecasts. In the past, such pressure would have spurred rash action. But now Ayan pauses, assessing each opportunity against his principles. Patience has become a tool, a lens through which he evaluates risk, reward, and alignment with intrinsic value. One afternoon, a high-profile tech stock tumbles sharply. Social media erupts with speculation of a permanent decline. Peers panic, buying and selling with abandon. Ayan reviews his criteria. Does he understand the business? Is the price below intrinsic value? Is there a sufficient margin of safety? The answers are clear. No, yes, yes. But the timing still feels off. He waits. Hours turn to days, and eventually the stock stabilizes. Those who rushed in experience sharp swings, while Ayan maintains his position of calm, ready for genuine opportunities that fit his framework. Emotionally, he notices a subtle but profound change. Anxiety, once a constant companion, has become manageable. It signals caution rather than dictating action. Confidence is no longer fragile, but grounded in principle. Each decision or deliberate non-decision reinforces a sense of control and rationality. Patience is no longer passive. It is a practiced skill, a discipline embedded in temperament and reinforced through observation and experience. Financially, the law of patience yields dividends not through immediate gains, but by preserving capital, avoiding unnecessary risk, and positioning Ayan for high-probability opportunities. He sees that impulsive trades rarely reward. Thoughtful, delayed action compounds value over time. Each experience solidifies the lesson. Wealth is built not by reacting to every market whisper, but by acting deliberately when conditions truly favor the informed investor. By chapter's end, Ayan embodies the quiet investor. He is unshaken by short-term turbulence, guided by principle rather than fear, and capable of trusting the slow accrual of wealth. Emotional intelligence, financial acumen, and rational discipline converge, preparing him for the final transformation. Embracing the owner's mindset, where investments are not fleeting bets, but enduring pieces of real businesses. Cinematic transition. With patience mastered, Ayan now steps into the ultimate stage of transformation. Thinking like an owner where clarity, discipline, and long-term perspective define every decision. Autumn settles over the city, softening sunlight over glass towers and quiet streets. The market hums, as always, but Ayan no longer hears it as a roar. Each investment he holds is no longer a number on a screen. It is a real business, a functioning enterprise with people, products, and value that extends far beyond the daily fluctuations of its stock. He has crossed the threshold from investor to owner, seeing opportunities and risks through a lens of stewardship, rather than speculation. Mr. Desai invites Ayan into his office, the scent of polished wood and leather filling the room. The owner's mindset, he says, changes everything. When you own a business, you care about its long-term health, not the next quarter's price. Decisions are made with responsibility, patience, and clarity, not urgency or emotion. He emphasizes that every purchase, every hold, every reinvestment is part of a continuum, reflecting a commitment to intrinsic value and rational judgment. Ayan visits a few companies in person, walking through factories, retail outlets, and offices. Observing managers making strategic decisions, employees solving problems, and products moving efficiently through markets, he experiences a profound realization. Each dollar he has invested is a stake in a living, breathing operation. Decisions are no longer abstract or driven by fear. They are grounded in understanding the business, its competitive advantages, and its long-term potential. Emotionally, he is transformed. Fear and greed, once constants in his trading life, have become measured signals. He recognizes moments of risk, evaluates them rationally, and either commits or abstains based on disciplined analysis. The market may be volatile, but volatility no longer disrupts him. It provides clarity, a chance to exercise judgment and discipline. He feels a quiet confidence that comes not from knowing the next move, but from knowing the fundamentals and trusting his capacity to assess value. Financially, the portfolio reflects his mindset. Positions are concentrated in businesses he understands and believes in, chosen deliberately with intrinsic value in mind. Cash flow, dividends, and reinvested earnings compound steadily, reflecting both the growth of the companies and the disciplined application of his strategy. Each decision is intentional, each outcome, whether minor gain or temporary drawdown, reinforcing the principles he has internalized. Through reflective journaling and conversations with Mr. Desai, Ayan understands that the owner's mindset is as much psychological as financial. It demands patience, rationality, and the ability to see beyond short-term noise. It transforms fear into observation, greed into prudence, and uncertainty into opportunity. Cinematic transition. As Ayan embraces the full owner's mindset, he stands at the culmination of his transformation, a disciplined, patient investor who measures success not by daily swings, but by long-term growth, understanding, and the quiet accumulation of true wealth. Months pass, and Ayan's transformation solidifies. Each investment is now approached as a piece of ownership, a responsibility to understand, protect, and nurture. He no longer obsesses over daily price movements or market chatter. Instead, he monitors fundamentals, management decisions, and long-term growth trajectories. The hum of the market, once a source of anxiety, becomes background rhythm, a reminder that opportunity and risk coexist, but that patience and discipline govern outcomes. Mr. Desai observes Ayan reviewing his portfolio with calm precision. Ownership changes perspective, he notes. You stop thinking like a trader chasing short-term gains and start thinking like a steward, focused on long-term value. Your decisions become less about emotion and more about judgment. Ayan reflects on the years of lessons, from the siren of noise to the discipline of his circle of competence, the protective margin of safety, the compounding of patient decisions, and the rigorous practice of the law of patience. Each principle now integrates seamlessly into his mindset, forming a coherent philosophy of investing. Emotionally, Ayan is steady. Fear no longer dictates behavior. It is a signal, a cue for careful evaluation. Greed is tempered by rational assessment and a commitment to intrinsic value. Market turbulence no longer disrupts his thinking. Instead, it becomes an arena to exercise judgment, discipline, and clarity. He experiences what Buffett calls the quiet confidence, a serenity rooted not in prediction, but in preparation, understanding, and temperament. Financially, the results are tangible yet understated. The portfolio grows steadily, supported by carefully selected businesses, reinvested earnings, and disciplined allocation. Gains accumulate quietly, reflecting not luck or timing, but consistent adherence to principle. Each positive outcome reinforces Ayan's confidence, while setbacks are absorbed as lessons, evaluated dispassionately, and integrated into future decision-making. The owner's mindset transforms volatility from threat into opportunity. By the chapter's end, Ayan embodies the full transformation envisioned at the journey's outset. He has evolved from a reactionary trader driven by fear and impulse into a calm, rational investor, guided by clarity, patience, and a deep understanding of value. The market's roar no longer dictates his mood. His inner discipline and long-term perspective guide his actions. Cinematic transition. In embracing the owner's mindset, Ayan exemplifies the timeless principle of Buffett-style investing. True wealth is not built by chasing noise, but through disciplined patience, rational judgment, and unwavering commitment to intrinsic value. Core financial moral. Reiterated. True wealth is built not by chasing noise or timing the market, but through disciplined patience, rational judgment, and unwavering commitment to intrinsic value.